You might think that this letter here is easy to pronounce, but there are some tricks to it. There are some exceptions and some tips that I wanted to give you for how to pronounce it. Now, first of all, the name of the letter is hiat, hiat. And it's not an H. I just want to make that clear. So if you're not watching this whole video, this is not an H sound. For example, if you were to say, haha, you're not going to say it like ha ha in English with that much breath, with that much air. This is a softer sound. Ha ha, not ha ha. So I want to make it really clear that this is not an H, and that is really important. It sounds like a small difference, but it makes a huge difference in sound change rules. So when you learn about a sound changing, it's hard to comprehend if that sound has an H sound, a sound. Why would it change to this? So when you remember that this has a softer H sound, it'll make a lot more sense. So it makes a big difference that this is not a hard H sound. When this sound hiat is combined with the letter iang, so the empty consonant, it actually disappears. So this word, you might think it's chohayo, chohayo. This is actually just pronounced as choayo, as if this hiat didn't exist because it's coming together with this empty consonant. And here as well, shi, lo, yo, not shir, hoyo, shi, lo. So it completely disappears, 100% disappears. Another example is mani, when you're saying a lot of something. This is just pronounced as mani. Mani. And this is hard to comprehend if you're thinking of this sound as being an H, because you would think, why would it go away? Manhi, it should be manhi, right? Well, it's because this sound is very soft to begin with, mani, manhi, manhi, that it actually just gets dropped in regular speech. And another rule with this letter in sound change rules is that whenever it comes before or after a regular consonant, I'll just write C, that regular consonant becomes a strong consonant. For example, in the word chu, ta, it's not pronounced as chuda, or anything like that. It becomes chu, this letter disappears, chu, ta. That extra bit of air that this hiat adds to the word gets added to the next consonant, or the consonant that comes before it, and it makes it into a strong consonant, because the only difference between a regular consonant and a strong consonant is just extra air. So that hiat, that little bit of extra air, gets added to this ta here, so it becomes chota, chota. And this video isn't only about sound change rules, but I just want to point out how notice that in every situation, wherever the hiat is involved in a sound change rule, it disappears. Pretty much anytime hiat is faced with any sort of difficulty, it just bails. So anytime you're using it for a sound change rule, you can just remember that the hiat is going to go away, regardless of how the rest of the word changes. Another example of this rule would be the word 급하다. 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 That extra bit of air gets added to the piap at the bottom, so you don't get 급하다, it's 급하다, 급하다. And this hiat completely goes away. This is a lesser known sound change rule. In fact, it just kind of has to do with all of these sound change rules, that this hiat letter is only there to add extra air in most cases. In fact, the only time you're gonna hear it is when it's not involved in a sound change rule. The most common incident of that is going to be whenever it's coming at the very beginning of a word, like this, haha. There's no other sound change rules that are affecting it, so you don't have to remove it. But anytime the hiat is not just at the beginning like that, it'll actually be softer and in fact disappear in regular words too. Specifically, anytime it comes after these letters. So anytime you have a hiat that comes after the miam, nian, iang, or lir, this hiat will actually pretty much disappear, 90% completely disappear. Let me give you some examples of what I mean. First, let's look at another example with this letter here, the iang. The regular word 안녕하세요. People don't actually say it though as 안녕하세요 unless you're reading it syllable by syllable. Koreans will actually just pronounce this as 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요, and they'll even do it faster than that, but let's just say they're saying it slowly. 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요. So anytime it's used after this letter, you can think that it doesn't exist in pronunciation. Here are a few more examples of this. The word 결혼, meaning marriage, is just pronounced like 결혼, 결혼. It's not pronounced as 결혼, 결혼. That's because it's after this letter. Next we have 전화, 전화, 전화. For telephone, it's not read as 전화, it's just read as 전화, 전화, because it comes after this letter. 올해, the word for this year, is just pronounced as 올해, not as 올해, which would sound really awkward. And next we have the word 조회수 for views, such as like the number of views on a video. It's just pronounced as 조회수. Look, it's just stuck in the middle of a word, and you actually don't end up even hearing it. It just gets really soft. So 조회수, 조회수. And finally, an example of this letter is the word 감히. 감히, like how dare you do something, 감히. It's just pronounced as 감히, not 감히. I want to make a disclaimer though, in that the hiat sound changing with these letters is not an official sound change rule. If you search the dictionary, you'll still find these ones. But in regular speech, I would say 99% of the time, people are going to use these ones. So if you want to sound extra accurate in speaking Korean, you can use the regular ways that they're written, but honestly, it'll sound like you're going to an extra effort to say things more accurately, and it will make your Korean sound a little bit less natural, I would say. So I would recommend these sort of things. But just keep in mind, it's not an official rule. So these sorts of things aren't so much a sound change rule as they are that this naturally happens anyway, because it's not a strong h sound. It's a light extra bit of air. So 전화. If you say it very slowly, 전화. But if you're speaking normally, that little bit of extra air doesn't really change the sound very much. So it kind of goes away and you're left with 전화, 전화. Just keep that in mind. All right, so did you enjoy this video? If you did, please leave a like or a comment if you have any future ideas for other videos, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again in another episode. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.